common bond, teens forge friendship despite differences. This informational text is written by Brooke, Hauser. Background: longtime journalist Brooke Hauser has profiled a wide array of subjects from Chinese beauty queens to perform U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell. However, in her first book, The New Kids, Big Dreams and Brave Journeys at the High School for Immigrant Teens, she chronicled the experiences of people who don't normally take center stage, recent immigrants who attend the International High School at the Prospect Heights. The following text is informed by what she learned and whom she got to know while writing that award-winning book. Prepare to compare, so as you read this article, take notes of the surprising facts and statistics you learn about students who have recently immigrated to the United States. Also keep track of all the individuals you get to hear from. Now let's begin the text, part 1, A Second Home.
Part 1: A Second Home. Have you ever been the new kid at school? Or maybe you've known the new kid at school? Either way, if you answered yes, then you might have a little glimpse into the experiences of the students at the International High School at Prospect Heights in Brooklyn, New York. Started in 2004, the school serves recent immigrants and refugees to the United States. How recent? Well, some of the students come to America just months or weeks before the first day of school in September each year.
So here goes this text started with a subheading, part 1, A Second Home. And here we got to know about the information about the International High School at Prospect Heights in Brooklyn, in New York, which was started in 2004. The school serves recent immigrants and refugees to the United States. And that school, there were students who came to America just months or a week before the first day of the school. And the school starts in September each year. After that, we have a question: analyze text elements, annotate, highlight the first subheading in the article. So we need to highlight the subheading. This is a subheading, A Second Home. Now let's predict, based on this subheading, what can you predict about the overall structure of the article? So the article, as we have the part here, part 1, A Second Home, so we can predict that the article must be divided at least 2 parts with subheadings introducing themes. Paragraph 2.
According to a book about the school written by the author of this article, The New Kids, Big Dreams and Brave Journeys at a High School for Immigrant Teens. The students hail from 40-plus different countries and speak nearly 30 languages: Spanish, Creole, Arabic, Fulani, and Tibetan, to name just a few. Imagine walking down those halls. They're noisy. In many ways, they're also a reflection of our country and what's special about America, which has always been home to newcomers.
So in the second paragraph, we got the information about the book, which was written by the author of this article, The New Kids, Big Dreams and Brave Journeys at High School of Immigrant Teens, and that the students who hailed from 40 plus different countries and speaks nearly 30 different languages were shown. And here, imagine walking down those halls. So of course, when there are different people, different kids speaking different languages, the place will be noisy. So in many ways, they are also a reflection of our country, and what's special about America is that it is always a home for newcomers, as many people keep visiting are immigrating America and residing over there, and many kids joining the school in short. Paragraph 3.
Spend a few hours at the International High School, and you'll quickly realize that students here represent a range of backgrounds and beliefs. Some are Christian or Jewish, others Buddhist or Muslim. But despite their differences, all of the students share one very important thing in common. They are all learning English together. In fact, to be eligible for enrollment, students must have failed an English language assessment test and be relatively new to the country, says Joe Luft, Executive Director of the International's Network for Public Schools, which oversees the school in Prospect Heights and others like it around New York City and beyond. All of the students in our schools are recently arrived immigrant youth who are new to learning English. Generally, they've been in this country for less than 4 years, although the majority have been here for less than a year or two.
So in paragraph 3, we have the information about how the International High School looks or how vast a variety it has regarding the range of backgrounds and beliefs students comes from. The students belongs to different religion, different background, different countries. There was a wide variety. So the variety is really vast in International High School. But despite the difference from the background, culture whatsoever, all of the students have one very important thing in common, and that is they all are learning English together. And here is a fact. In fact, to be eligible for enrollment in that school, students must have failed an English language assessment test and be relatively new to the country. This is said by Joe Luft. He's an executive director of the International Schools Network for Public Schools, which oversees the school in Prospect Heights and other like it around New York City and beyond. So all of the students in he says that all of the students in the school are recently arrived immigrant youth who are new to learning English, and generally they have been in this country for less than 4 years, or although they are very new, like less than a year or two. Paragraph 4.
Maybe you've heard the term ESL, which stands for English as a Second Language. The funny thing is, for many of these students, English isn't their second language. In some cases, it's their third, fourth, or fifth.
So we all know that ESL means English as second language, but for the students who are in that school, for them English was not even the second language. For them it was they studied English as third language, fourth language, or even fifth language. So they were very poor in English.
Take Nuru So, a rising senior at the International High School who immigrated from Guinea in West Africa when she was 12, along with her mother, older brother, and little sister. In her native country, Nuru grew up speaking Fulani, as well as Susu and Mandinka. So technically, English is her fourth language. But we don't have a term for that like EFL. The better term for these students is ELL, for English Language Learner.
So in paragraph 5, there's an example of a girl, Nora So. So she learned English as fourth language, but there is no term like EFL, English as fourth language. So for them, for these kind of students, the ones who learned English as a third, fourth, or fifth language, the term called ELL, English Language Learners. So this is used. Paragraph 6.
Learning a new language is hard enough, but English is just one part of what these students must conquer as new immigrants in America. They are adapting to a new way of life, too. Every once in a while, there's a student who has never been to any school before the International High School. Some students have fled from their homes in countries damaged by war, political strife, or famine. Some have spent time in refugee camps, where a formal education isn't an option. Many students grew up in rural places, such as on farms or in the mountains, and they can experience major culture shock when they arrive in New York City. They have to take a bus or subway to school, navigating new routes through the city, which can be a scary prospect when you don't speak the language. A good number of students also work after school, some in restaurants or nail salons, to help provide for their families. Others help out with housework and childcare, cooking and cleaning, and looking after younger siblings. For many students, the International High School at Prospect Heights is kind of like a second home in the city. What makes our school a welcoming place and feel like home is in the importance we put on relationships. You can only develop a relationship with a people if you spend time with them and do things together, says the school principal, Nada de Castro. Students and teachers get to know each other in small groups and different settings, both inside and outside of school, on field trips, for instance. Even though they come from all over the world and may be very different from each other, she says, they are all in the same boat and have much in common in their journey to becoming a new American.
In paragraph 6 and 7, we read about the struggles students have to go through. They are very new to English language and very new to the place as well. So in adapting the language in school will be really hard for them. Notice and note, highlight the quoted words in paragraph 7. Evaluate. So here we can see the quoted words. What makes our school a welcoming place and feels like home is in the importance we put on relationships. You can only develop a relationship with the people if you spend time with them and do things together. So we can see this in quotation. And one more here. Even though they come from all over the world and may be very different from each other, she says they are all in the same boat and have much in common in the journey to becoming a new American. Even this sentence is quoted in quotation marks. So after highlighting, we have to evaluate. The author could have paraphrased what the principal said or restated the ideas in her own words. What is the effect of including the principal's exact words? Using the principal's exact words make the paragraph both more interesting and more credible. Paragraph 8.
You may have heard the term melting pot to describe America as a place where people from different cultures and backgrounds mix together and assimilate into the whole to create a new culture. At the international high schools, there's another metaphor that students embrace, according to Luft. The thing that I hear more than any other idea is the school as a family, in all its complexity, he says. Everybody doesn't always get along, but ultimately they feel this very strong connection to each other and care about each other.
So the 8th paragraph tells about how the people from different cultures come and mix together, and they use the word melting pot. So they describe the place as melting pot, as the people from different places with different backgrounds and cultures coming and mixing together and forming a whole new culture at the international high school. And there's a metaphor mentioned here, which was according to Love, there was director. It's given here. The thing that I hear more about any other idea is that the school is as a family in all its complexities. So he says this. Everybody doesn't always get along, but ultimately they feel this very strong connection to each other and care about each other as they spend time with each other and make a bonding. Then we have part 2 here, a new
Part
identity.
2. A new identity. Indeed, most of the students are learning a new culture, all the while honoring traditions from their home countries. When the school's first ever graduating class wanted to organize their senior prom, first they had to figure out exactly what a prom was. The prom committee, made up of mostly African and Haitian girls, watched Hollywood prom movies as research. When the big night arrived, The girls and boys who went embraced many American prom customs, like buying corsages for their dates and getting their hair done at the beauty salon. But they also incorporated their own international touches. For instance, a girl from Bangladesh opted to wear a sari as her prom dress, and all the students danced to music from around the world. For Lobsang Jampa, who's originally from Tibet, that was the best part. The disco, he says and laughs. The teachers also danced, and they showed some funny moves that I had never seen, never expected. While every culture has its specific traits, being a teenager can be challenging, whether you're from Tibet or Texas. And as Neda DeCastro points out, an American teenager from another part of the country might actually share more in common with one of her immigrant students than with a native New Yorker. For instance, a young person who lives on a farm in the United States could have more in common with one of my immigrant students who came from a farming community in their native country, she says. You may not speak the same language, wear the same clothes, or even have the same religion, but there may be ways in which you understand each other very well and have the same values.